Hey, it's Friday. Bring it in with my guy, Coach Thorpe. Coach, how are you?
My man, in 48 hours, I'm going to have both my twins in my house for 2 weeks. Man, I couldn't be happier.
I was going to say, on a scale of 1 to ecstatic, where are you?
Well, honestly, just my wife is so thrilled. And my parents, who have not seen my son since August, and my mother-in-law hasn't seen my son since August. We've seen my daughter. She comes home once a month or so. And they've only seen each other a couple of times, my twins. So Sunday night, bringing in Chinese food. We're locking the doors. No one's allowed to come over. Phones put away. We're just going to fam it up. I can't wait.
I love it. And anybody, if you watch this show and you listen to True and you follow Coach Thorpe, you know, as much as he loves basketball, pales in comparison to how much he loves his family. Not even close.
Yeah. In fact, I before you get into your video, I texted my son last night with the terrible news about Terrence Clark. And my first reaction is I remember being 19 and thinking, you didn't think about mortality. It wasn't something you really considered. And honestly, the very first time I thought about mortality is when Kobe died, because that day was Superman. And he couldn't survive a helicopter crash. I've been in some car accidents. It's a violent thing. And he had already known about this young man dying, but I wanted him to I don't even know how he died. I don't know the story. An NBA player just called me to see if I heard about it. I'm like, of course I heard about it. And he thought he was drag racing. I said, I heard his mom was in the car.
No.
So I don't know what the truth is. All I know is we're just flesh and bone and water and blood, and we die fast. And I wanted my son to be thoughtful about that and mindful of it. Don't fucking take any chances.
Everyone is aware of the poem or the little story, The Precious Present, right? Like,
yeah, right.
The reason why it's called The Present, right? Be very mindful and appreciative and thankful for where you are in the moment, because nothing is promised to you going forward. All right, on a much more upbeat note.
Yeah.
Judy, let's start with the TrueHoop TV video from this week. Sports is very much a win-now business, and the NBA is no different. Players get traded, coaches and GMs get hired and fired with numbing regularity. All that flux doesn't seem conducive to winning. The constant pressure to win, for fear of losing one's job, also robs most teams of the opportunity to develop talent. There are tons of talented players not in the NBA who, if given the opportunity, could help teams win. We see it happen all the time. Chris Boucher, Lou Dort, Duncan Robinson, and Royce O'Neal come to mind. All undrafted players who either played internationally or bounced around the G League, but were given the opportunity to develop. All those players were available for anybody to take a chance on, but the majority of NBA teams passed on them. Shouts to the Raptors, Heat, Thunder, and Jazz. How many franchises besides those four and the Spurs have the luxury of affording unknown players the opportunity to develop? Every team could do the same thing, but giving unheralded, undrafted G League and international players an opportunity doesn't excite owners or the majority of a fan base. It's only after, if and when that player produces, it's looked upon favorably. Building a consistent franchise that makes the playoffs year after year and in those magical seasons makes special runs is hard work. You need 15 or so talented players. It takes a lot of time, luck, and opportunity. And this is sort of a theme that we've been on. Obviously, I'm going to do some more videos around that. Just this idea that, and part of it is sort of the instant microwave success that we think life is, right? And it's like when you're making the bouillabaisse or the gumbo or the chili. No, man, it's like preparation and work. You don't just show up and then it comes out perfect. And you got to be willing to take some chances and give an opportunity to do things. And most teams just don't afford their teams the opportunity to do that, again, because of silly things like what fans are going to say, owners get mad because you don't have a superstar or whatever. That's why there's only a handful of really good and well thought out franchises, and the rest, they get lucky sometimes, but usually not.
Of course, it's genius. This is right up my alley. It's something I think about and talk about all the time. In reading that book, The MVP Machine, Jarod, which is a baseball book, it's interesting. I've been saying this now since I've read the book. Major League Baseball is a decade ahead of the NBA. Well, one of the ways they're so far ahead is many of the franchises now realize, well, we've got all these minor league players and we're paying them $1 a day. I mean, a lot of these guys make nothing. I don't mean the AAA guys who are sometimes on major league salaries, but generally speaking, these guys make very little money. And it's hard to eat healthy with very little money. right? So what some of these smarter teams are starting to do is, hey, guess what? We're going to give them a strength coach. We're going to give them a nutritionist. We're going to give them food or a budget for food so we can better evaluate their long-term potential because they're healthy. Like, it's not rocket science. I promise you, that is not the case in the NBA G League.
No,
that is not the case.
We know that.
They're on their own, Checkers and McDonald's or whatever. And if one of the players I trained last year for the draft was in the little clip you had there, Robert Franks. I don't know how he's not in the NBA. He's at a second 10-day now with the Magic. He's incredible. 6'9", 7'2" wingspan. He's one of the best shooters I've ever coached in my life. And pretty athletic, and lost like 50 pounds on his own while he was in college, not with me. He probably lost 10 more with me. He's like very dedicated guy. And I don't know how he didn't get drafted. It makes no sense to me. But the Magic, who knows? I don't know if he'll make the team or not. Give him time to develop. Coach him up. He was a two-way player for Charlotte. They never moved him up once, despite him scoring 20 a game. On a team that has a few other guys who are now signing contracts with the NBA, he was better than them. It's very strange how teams kind of miss this kind of stuff. And it's the lack of foresight is bad for their company.
That's so funny because I did not talk to you ahead of making this video.
Nope.
And I am nowhere near the eye for talent that you are, but I'm like, this guy looks pretty good. Why hasn't anybody picked him up?
Listen, he worked out for the Kings and the Bucks one day, and I did the workout myself. They came to me. So this was 2 summers ago, right? Obviously no pandemic. I'm not kidding. I got chills running the workout. My assistants who were watching kept looking at me sheepishly because he fucking didn't miss. He was so impressive. And I know how to do this now. Like, I didn't make him just stand in the corner and shoot threes. No, we're moving and screening and shooting and back cutting and he's making every shot. And I swear to you, Jarod, the Bucks and Kings guy, the Kings guy had seen him a bunch in college. The Bucks guy hadn't. They asked me if they can come back in the morning. They were clearly talking, and I knew the Bucks guy really well because they wanted to see how he reacted when he missed shots because he missed like 3 shots in 45 minutes. It was scintillating. It was ridiculous. I thought that's it. He's going to the Bucks at number 30. I really thought he was going the end of the first round. He ended up going undrafted. I don't know what these teams are doing. But you can't just bring him in and see him for 2 weeks either. You said the word develop. Just let them play. Let them figure stuff out. If they don't, that's a different story. And that's what the G League, that's why this year's kind of tragic was 1 month, right? 1 month. How is the Johnson kid, before we get to our Jazz segment, how's the Johnson kid doing for the Nets?
He's getting playing time. When he's in there, they love all the energy he brings and everything. And it's part of the problem. We talk about this all the time, Coach, is these sort of competing interests when it comes to this, right? Player development is one thing. Then you have these coaches who are like, no, but I got to win now. And then it's like, but I got to catch this 1 seed. And it's like the guy does something wrong for 2 minutes and you yank him. And it's like, okay, I understand why you did it because you're chasing this thing, but that's not helping his confidence, right? So it's these competing things that don't allow for the perfect environment to allow the development to happen, which is why on a normal year, you'd have to use the G League and let that play itself out. But we don't really have that. But they love him, and that's why they signed him to the multi-year deal.
I like him. I wish they would play sometimes. Maybe they do this. I'm not aware of it though. They should be playing G League games like before the NBA games, almost like the JV. Let them play in the big arena. Let the fans see it, or after. If you have an early game, play it afterwards. The games are amazing. The talent is supreme. They're young talents. They're not very smart. But they'll learn that. That's what the reference points are for. Games are reference points for the next day of practice in your next game.
Yep. And it's and that's why in that video I put that famous picture of that Indiana Pacers fan, the mom in the video, just like yelling. And a large part of it is because that's how owners react, right? They're like, no one knows who that is, but I know LaMarcus Aldridge. I know Blake Griffin. It's like, oh, I get it. Like, you've heard of them before, and that sounds better. But these other people might actually help you win games and get to your ultimate end goal, right? But, can't see the forest for the trees sometimes, I guess. Anyway, time to play some jazz, folks. Coach, you are up.
All right, so there was a great video last night at the end of the Pistons-Spurs game where, and we can just play the video, we don't need the audio. Dwayne Casey, old coach, who's been a guest on our show, is meeting with Pop, And there's DeMar DeRozan like, hey, what's going on there? And I'm pretty good at reading players' body language. There is a comfortable feeling DeRozan has with his old coach, right, in Toronto. And understandably so, Coach Casey helped him make a whole bunch of money, right? DeMar was not really doing great at a while for Toronto. And then, of course, he became an all-star and his high-level scorer and a very, very wealthy man, deservedly so. And just look at that smile DeMar's got and just that the embrace. That's what we're supposed to be able to do as coaches. Is we're allowed to coach our players and we're allowed to be hard on them. But eventually we want them to greet us with that kind of warmth because we love them. Like that's what we're supposed to do. And I just love that DeMar reacted that way. It's the best parts of the NBA is when you see that kind of coach, in my opinion, the coach-player relationship. And they both helped each other a ton because DeMar helped Dwayne Casey a lot too.
You know, Coach, you always say it, right? Leadership and coaching is about breathing spirit, right, into the bodies of others. And you can see that. There's no way that DeMar did not feel that from both of them, Pop and Casey, in that exchange, right? Because if they didn't, he wouldn't be over there smiling. So that was awesome. Somebody is not on mute, and they need to be. Maybe it's Greg, I think. All right, Judy, next thing up here, we have, you know, my favorite topic in the world, billionaires and the capitalist machine. Generous billionaires are part of the problem, and they are. So there's this thing that we talk about often called billionaire philanthropy, and it's really awful because all it actually does is reinforce the status quo. People like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos, and, you know, they're like, oh my God, they gave away 2% of their wealth or 1% or whatever the number is. And honestly, a couple $100 million in comparison to the billions that these people have is literally nothing. And I love the end of this piece because it says, elite philanthropy, far from being merely an inadequate solution to social problems, ultimately works to entrench and perpetuate them, offering a tiny handful of elites a useful vehicle for the purchase of virtue and the soft power that comes with it at the expense of many. Maybe it's time we tried democracy instead. And that's ultimately what this is all about, right? These people don't do it out of any pure altruistic methods, no matter what they tell you. It's cachet that it allows them to have to continue to do the thing that they do. And I've said it a million times on this show, behind every fortune is a great crime, right? There is no way you amass that kind of money without, at best, doing shady things. At worst, doing abhorrent things. And then most of them, maybe not directly, but indirectly, the way in which they amass all their money is at the expense of the majority of people. And it's terrible. Maybe it is time we do try democracy.
Yeah, we can talk about that after this. All right, so Israel announced yesterday that there are cases of COVID. I think they were at 0 yesterday. 0 cases, or no, 100, less than 100 a day. That's what it is. And first day in over a year with no COVID deaths. And if you look at that second link I have there, Judy, Israel's the size of Rhode Island, where Judy went to school in that state. It's very, very small. So it's unfair to compare that to Texas and Florida, New York, California. But 8 states we've seen have now vaccinated more than 6% of adults with a first shot. New Hampshire's over 70%. I thought to myself, we can't be Israel. It's a tiny, tiny little place. But we can aspire. If every state had a governor, and Jarod just quoted me just a few minutes ago about breathing spirit in the hearts and minds of others, it'd be great if 50 governors all got on a call and then did a public announcement to their own state competing. Who is going to be the first state to have 0 deaths in a day or 0 cases in a day? How do we do that? Well, we do the mitigating circumstances and we get vaccines, right? If we had leadership from above for all of us to one day realize we just went the whole day and no one got sick. No one was sent to the hospital. No one died. We'd be a whole lot closer to the nirvana that we want, right? The kind of life that we're hoping to lead. Yesterday, I had to go pick up my car from the dealership. I've been double vaccinated. It's been almost 2 weeks now. I still wore my mask. Like, it's not a big deal. The New York Times actually posted something. If you're outdoors and you're away from people, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you're indoors, you need to wear a mask, period, end of story. It's not so hard to do. Trumpers are still fighting it. But if we inspired them that we could do this, first state to have 0, maybe a few would come around. That's our political leaders don't think enough about inspiring people.
Oh, I mean, they don't give two you-know-whats about inspiration or anything, right? Their job is about holding on and consolidating
Right.
power. Could care less about the people, which of course is their job. So the times are changing out here. And Judy, if you can show those tweets from the Professional Collegiate League. So this is an alternative college league run by Ricky Valenti and David West, who actually, we should probably get Ricky and David and Andy Schwartz on the show, maybe on a Wednesday. I know those guys fairly well. And this is an alternative to college, right? It's a professional league that actually allows players out of high school to play basketball professionally while also pursuing an education, right? Sort of the antithesis of the NBA, realizing that the NCAA, excuse me, where, okay, we totally understand the fact that basketball is your focus and you want to go pro, no problem. We'll pay you for that. You'll have control of your name, image, and likeness and all that. And here are the connections to colleges. We have these various cities that you can take courses in and do what you have to do. They just announced they have a media partner to air their games, which will start later this year. The Overtime League, which Kevin Durant and, the front man of the capitalist machine, an awful human being, Jeff Bezos, invested in. They also are going to be paying players as well that come out of high school. I say all that to say that the NCAA is still out here fighting about name, image, and likeness and deciding whether or not it's a good idea. Meanwhile, these other leagues are disrupting the industry and saying, hey, look, guys, you want to get paid? We are happy to pay you. Let you be in control of that and recognize this for what it is, right? You are trying to go professional. We'll aid you in that. We'll help you, and we'll make this more of an equitable on-the-line scenario. And I just think that this is, 30 years ago, you would never imagine that, right? What? You're going to college. No one's ever thinking about that. Imagine where we're going to be in another 30 years. I mean, the NCAA, in terms of college basketball, may look nothing like it looks right now in terms of that top elite talent. And let's also not forget the G League Ignite, that special team, right, that they're doing. I mean, it'll be rare, I imagine, in 30 years that top prep guys even consider the NCAA.
Yeah, let's make sure we talk about this, okay, after we're done with this. So for my third one today is we just published an article that I worked on the last couple of days. And I think if you followed the NBA at all the last couple of days, you saw what Steph Curry did to the Sixers. But when I was watching the game at live, I did watch especially maybe the last quarter, I watched the whole thing. I kept thinking about Malcolm Gladwell's book, David and Goliath, where he really makes the argument that David had all the advantages, that Goliath never had a chance. Well, Joel Embiid never had a chance in this game. And the reason why, which is why we're going to write about it, is earlier in the game, Curry scurried by him and scored pretty easily. Like Embiid didn't even get his hands up. He just was roasted. And I felt like at that point, Embiid's like, well, I'm not doing that anymore. This little dude can shoot all the threes he wants. I'm not getting embarrassed again. And that's exactly what Curry did. Curry ended the game because of his three-point shooting, and Embiid didn't get near guarding him. And so to me, I told this to Henry this morning. Listen, Curry, Lillard, they're as rare as Jokic and Embiid. So there's not, but there's more little guys than really gigantic big guys that are super coordinated and skilled. We're going to see over the course of time more guys. Trae Young is an example of that. We know who they are, that can shoot like that off the dribble, which means you've got to make a choice as a big guy. Get willing to be embarrassed or maybe lose badly in the last few minutes of a game. I think that we're going to see this really interesting contrast in how teams are constructed. We've got a little guy like Mike Conley's doing this to a little lesser degree. He doesn't shoot quite as much, but he's having about a career year because he also can scurry by you and score in the paint. And if you stay back, shoot that three off the dribble, and now big guys are in trouble. So you can double team the big like the Warriors did with Embiid at the end of the game, or they just put Looney on him. They mix it up. If you want to double Curry, you have to have a big guy willing to do it because they're going to put the big guy into the ball screen. And if he's not willing to do it, you're going to see more of what happened the other night. So fun article for people that like to read about David and Goliath.
As always, an excellent article by you, Coach. And that's one of my favorite parts of that Malcolm Gladwell book. He makes such interesting points. I do wonder, right? Because in basketball, the rim is still 10 feet above the ground. So Embiid and Jokic and Curry and Dame, clearly two different types of players, right? Obviously big in skill, small in skill, but different kinds of skill. Is that still why, I mean, and there's only one of this person, that if you were going to draft, more than one doesn't exist, you'd have a team of 5 Kevin Durant-like players, right? Because I can pull off the dribble and shoot, and I'm also 7 feet tall. So I can do the things that maybe Embiid can't because he's not as nimble as I am.
Right, that's right. Right, he can guard. He also can guard. That's why I work on ball handling even with 7-footers in space. We move. We don't just dribble in place because I think it helps prepare their mind to defend the space as well. And that's what Durant can do a whole lot better than Embiid. But like they play Jokic, I want to say tonight or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And Jokic just has to be willing to get burned. But don't let him shoot a 3 all the time because if Curry's hot, you're done. If he misses, you're lucky. But he doesn't miss all the time, and then you're screwed.
All right. And I feel like so many somber notes out here, but on a somber note here, some of you may know that famous Oakland rapper Shock G passed away. Shock G, and also known by his alias as Humpty Hump, as many of you may know him, the founder of Digital Underground. He was instrumental in Tupac Shakur's career, instrumental in the infusion of funk into hip hop. Just a visionary when it came to music and a legend in hip hop. And I just wanted to sort of put that out there because, sport and music have such ties, particularly hip hop. And I know that, some of these younger guys may not know Shock G, but the connection through sport and music is just so evident. And rest in peace, Shock G. We mentioned the Kentucky freshman who also died. It seems like there's just too much death going on in the world. And again, it's just a reminder of we have no idea what's coming for us down the road. Just be mindful and enjoying what you have in your immediate future, like Coach is going to do with his family come Sunday, party time down in Florida.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So, Jarod, I want to pick up on your thing about the times are changing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What are the arguments, and you and I are on the same side of this. What are the arguments against having players not play in college? It's not really an argument against it. It's more of, well, they don't build their notoriety the same if they don't go, let's say, Zion at Duke. To which I always say, are you out of your fucking mind to think that Zion Williamson, had he not ever played at Duke, wouldn't be this gigantic superstar when he's destroying the league? Like, I don't think at all he would be affected. He would be just as famous. It may not have been in November of his rookie season, well, the beginning of November, but by the end of November in a regular year, he'd be super famous when he kept dunking on everyone all the time, right? Am I crazy to say that?
No, not at all. And what's even going to make that more so the case, Coach, social media is going to literally eliminate the need for Duke or Carolina or Kansas, because the idea is you align yourself with those brands that everybody knows that gets you onto the national stage. Bro, if I come in and I got 10 million Instagram followers already, what the hell do I need Duke or Carolina for? People already know who I am, right? I don't need that. You actually need me to help you, right? So I think that as that continues to move forward, we're going to see players who are already understanding their brand and their social media brand. They're already going to be famous before they even consider stepping foot on college campuses. And a company like Overtime, which specializes in the high school and prep, putting those videos out there and that sort of thing, these are known commodities. So the whole sham of amateur, we can skip that and go right to playing professionally, getting paid, developing. And now this is where you come in, Coach. Hopefully all of these leagues spend the time and get the requisite people who are good and understand what player development is and what that means and how you get these guys to get better over the 8 to 10, whatever, however long they're doing that before they enter the NBA draft.
Yeah, so I look at development 2 ways. You've got on-court / game development, and then you have human development. And I don't think for a moment colleges have some kind of monopoly on either. Okay. But as a father and as a human being, the second one, the human development, is incredibly important. And having a financial stake in a team overseas and paying attention to that world more, where they don't play college, they call it football over there, right? European football. If you're any kind of talent starting at 16, you get paid to play. You're not necessarily getting paid a lot of money. but you're not going to college. And what people over there have told me over the decades, they've told me in the last 5 years, but over decades, they've learned that there is a large segment of that former athlete population who never quite bubbled up high enough to really make a good living that suddenly has to now be in the workforce, and they're not educated.
Yeah.
Right. And you think about education, it isn't just what you're learning in the classroom. It's what you learn about yourself. Right. As I've talked to my own children, I've sent many kids to play college basketball, hundreds of them probably. That staying up late to study, that learning how to budget your time, there's many, many factors. Learning how to talk to your professors, how to negotiate grades. These things actually happen, right? There's a value to that for the rest of your life. It has nothing to do with the textbook or the lecture that you heard. And so I don't remember which one it was that I read in your piece, but where they are trying to get their kids to go to local colleges.
Yeah.
I don't know how interested those kids will be in those local colleges. Then let me say one more thing. I'm alarmed and have been alarmed for a long time now as an example, ESPN's work at celebrating these kids and where they're deciding to go to school. And then once they get to the college, unless they're famous, you never hear from them again. I don't like that these men, in many cases, the peak of their fame is when they're 17, 18 years old. I don't think it's healthy. That doesn't mean there aren't exceptions. Of course there are. That's why, for example, in the programs that I've volunteered to help, including my own sons, we don't let our kids tweet out, our players tweet out, blessed to get this offer. We don't do that, Jarod. We treat this process with more respect. If you offer one of my players a scholarship, we don't tweet a thing. We take it in, we text them directly, thank you very much. We then ask our players, once you make a decision, one of my guys just decided last week to go to historically black college, but before he told this college he was going there, Miles College, he had to text his other schools, Division I and II. He had to call them. Thank you for offering me the scholarship. I've decided to go somewhere else. And then you can hang up if you want to, but you have to, that's part of growing up. I'm worried that these businesses now, because they're businesses, aren't going to necessarily recognize that aspect of human development, even if they do recognize the on-court development, and that will be a shame. Again, colleges aren't any better for sure. Some are, some aren't. We're holding the future of these young people in our hands, and we have to make sure we take care of it the right way, or there'll be lost generations in those families when there shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, you're right on, Coach. And I think I'll just add that you're right. Colleges don't have the monopoly. What they do have in terms of the human development is a ready-made system that just provides that opportunity just by the nature of what college is, right? You have to wake up at 8 and go wherever. You have to get to class. You got to talk to your professors about whatever. Again, not the actual in-class stuff, as you mentioned, but just the navigating of I've got to play and I've got to deal with this and how to work and get my laundry done and all the things in the middle, right? That things you don't know when you're 15, 14, 13, because mom and dad are doing it for you or whatever, right? So I think, yes, that will be an interesting part, how you develop as a human being and what the different things are they have in place. Hopefully it won't be like, the old school rookie transition or symposium that the NBA used to do, which, a bunch of them would like not even go to or get kicked out or not pay attention, right? That kind of like classroom style lecture, that ain't it, people. Not it at all.
There's something else too. I maybe told this story once before, but I remember what John Chaney was like my favorite coach. Okay. From Temple University. And when he had Eddie Jones, who was from Florida, I watched him in high school, so I loved him. And Aaron McKee, they were seniors, or maybe they were juniors. They were leaving early as juniors. They lost, I want to say, to Duke, like in the Final 8. And John Chaney does his post-game press conference. And I always watch coaches' post-game press conferences if I can. And he said, my boys are just bawling their eyes out right now. And he said, because they'll never again play as a family because I'm making them go pro. These guys are ready. And he was right. They were NBA players. Whether they're ready or not, that's irrelevant. The NBA was ready to draft them. It's not the other way around. It doesn't matter if you're ready. Kevin Durant wasn't ready to help anyone win games. The NBA was ready to draft them. That's all that matters. So Chaney was like, no, you're gone, bro. Get out of here. Go make your money. But he was right. So these leagues who may develop players for a year or two, it's already a business when you get to the NBA. College, of course, is a business too, but the players don't know that. I think they should get paid. It's a separate issue. But there is a sense of family because for many of them, they are there more than a year. And I think that's valuable. So I want it'd be ideal if these leagues recognize some players may need more than a year or two. So let's really invest into their souls in a sense, so that no matter what happens down the road, this becomes a very positive experience. It can't just be about making the NBA because there's only so many slots. And the whole world's involved, not just America. So I worry about that. I worry about that. And I should worry about that because no one's any good at that. It's really fucking hard to do.
Yeah.
Build all of that. But we need to, for these young people. We need to.
Judy, let's kick off the top of the discussion. Coach, we got about, 4 weeks or so left until the playoffs. And, we're about 60 games in, right? So most teams have 12 to 14 games left, which not that many.
Nope.
We're seeing a lot of injuries, though. I know we talked about it with Tom Haberstroh on Monday. This is a doc who wrote something really interesting that talked about the rate of injury increasing based on numbers of play versus the rate of injury versus when you have recovery days. And it goes exactly how you would imagine it, right? Like the more you play, the higher likelihood you have of being injured. The less you play, less likely, right? This isn't rocket science. Like anybody who understands that knows this. I wonder, Coach, as teams were getting ready and you got the top three in each conference who that's still up to be decided. Between one and number three on both sides is at most 3 games. So, you go on a streak, win 3 in a row, you're back at the top of the conference. Our teams like really kind of like that the year the Warriors went for 73, spending all the money up front now, and that may come back to bite you later in the playoffs, right? Does it really matter getting the one versus, look, I want to be healthy come playoff time?
I want to hear your opinion but the one team to me that I'm liking more and more every week, in part because I don't know why they're doing this, but the reality is the Clippers are not killing Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And our favorite player, Terrence Mann, had the other day 19, 6, and 7. And Luke Kennard has kind of found his place there. Reggie Jackson's having an amazing season shooting the ball. I don't know how much you remember Reggie Jackson, OKC.
Yeah.
I watched all of his games his first couple of years, and that dude could not be guarded one-on-one, but he couldn't shoot. But you couldn't keep in front of him. Well, he's older now. You can guard him one-on-one now much better. But now he can shoot. So the Clippers seem to be developing a depth that the Jazz already had, but the Clippers have 2 guys to the Jazz. The Jazz have Mitchell and Gobert, and that's great. But PG and Kawhi are probably a better duo. It's fair to argue, but probably better. But now they have these other guys, and those guys aren't being killed, PG and Kawhi. That has meaning to me. And then I was on our document, I listed who's still out that we get a chance to see: Durant, Harden, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron. I think I read that Trae Young got hurt last night.
He did. Yep. 2 nights ago. Yep.
Yeah. And the Hawks are in the running they're in the playoffs.
They're 5th.
So yeah, we still have a lot. There's a lot of moving parts to the stars. That really is definitive in a series, is who's the healthier, not just who's healthier, but who are the healthier stars.
Yeah. It's mind blowing right now. Cause I'm sitting here and I'm looking, I go, guys, because you're also gonna have the play-in week, right? I think that week in between when the regular season ends on a Saturday and then the play-in week starts that next Sunday and then the playoffs start that following Saturday. That week in between is going to be so vital because I think if you've already got your seed hopefully locked up the week prior, you can start a little bit of rest there. And then that week off, you can actually train and practice, right? And sharpen some things as you get ready to start the playoffs on Saturday. For me, I'm with you. The Clippers, we talk about our championship bus, and this is a good segue to go into that. The Clippers have been changing their seat, right? They've been on the bus the whole time. They never left.
Oh, yeah.
But now they're heading towards the front of that seat. Like, okay. But real quiet. No one's talking to them. They're sitting by themselves. But they, I love what I'm seeing out of the Clippers. And look, it's all going to come down to playoff P, right? Like what? Because that's what everyone's going to look at. What are you like come postseason? We've seen you in the regular season, blah, 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 do whatever. Are you going to show up when the stakes matter the most, right? And if it's about injury, which it has been for a lot of that time for him, because remember, early in his career, he was excellent in Indiana in the postseason. Went toe-to-toe with LeBron James in 7 games. I don't know what's been happening since he went to the Western Conference. Some of that's been injury. Some of it, who knows? But it'll be interesting to see, as he's saying all the right things, like, I've gotten my mind right. I'm together. Because if he's unleashed, and this is an all-NBA guy, now I got 2. And they are two-way wrecking balls, right? Like, good luck. I think they're going to be dangerous.
And I think they're the best shooting team in the league. I haven't checked the stats last couple of days, but I think they're the best shooting team.
Them and the Nets flip-flop like by 1/10 of a point every
for three-point shooting.
Yeah. They're
the Jazz are like 3rd. What are they at, Jarod? Do you have it?
Who, the Clippers?
Yeah, for 3-point shooting.
40.2. They might be at 40%.
Yeah, they're just amazing. So, Judy, if you wanna post, I have it. Says who would you? Well, you don't have to post it because I didn't do a link there. So I have listed here on the same subject, Ron. You mentioned the playing games. So here's the 4 teams right now in the running for 7, 8, 9, 10 for the East: the Heat, the Hornets, the Pacers, the Wizards. All right, now in the West, 7 through 10: Dallas, Memphis, Spurs, Warriors, and then 11 is Pelicans. Like, it's not fair.
No.
The West has Luka, Morant, the Spurs, right? Curry and Zion.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Bradley Beal's great. Westbrook's playing really well at the number 10 spot for the Wizards. Of all those 4 teams in the East, you might say you want to play the Wizards the least out of the Heat, Hornets, and Pacers, which tells you a lot. They're still not a very good team.
Right.
So,
and you say that because they have Beal and Westbrook, and on any given night they could be the best guy on the floor, and you're losing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so.
And they're playing well right now too. Just the whole West thing. When you talk about the bus, the Jazz are likely going to be the 1st seed, and the Lakers are likely to be in the 4 or 5 spot. Right now they're 5.
Lost last
The
time.
Mavericks and the Blazers are at 6. Maybe Blazers 6, Mavericks might be a game behind them.
Or half.
I promise you, the Jazz are rooting for the Blazers and the Mavericks to overtake the Lakers.
Oh, 1,000%.
You're not what and the Lakers, if they stay at 5, will play Denver without Jamal Murray.
Which is a much easier.
The Lakers are a heavy favorite, right?
Yes.
And now the Jazz have to beat that Lakers team in round 2.
It is, and this is what I mean about seeding, right? So it's like, damn, do I want to rest these guys or do I want to try to play that thing? And I wonder, as a coach, what do you think about this? Do you want to get yourself into that game of doing what you can to avoid this team? Or is it like, nah, forget that. I just got to win and do what's in front of me?
I think it depends on context. For the West, I don't know that it matters. Like, if you find yourself trying to dodge your next opponent, you might lose the first one. They're all bullets. They're all bullets like that. The West is just ridiculous. To have to play Luka in round 1, which the Jazz might have to do. I'm sorry, it's not fun. Like, that's just. I wish we didn't do West and then East separate. Just let if the Wizards are the lowest rated team in the East, we'd have Jazz Wizards. That'd be a fine series. Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, and the Jazz, great. The Jazz would win that series, but it might take 5 or 6. But to have to play Luka in round 1 or any of those teams, the Grizzlies are really good.
Speaking of Luka,
they very well could be the 8 seed.
Cuban and Luka complaining about the play-in. Guys, you had 72 games to avoid the 7 seed, right? Like, just get in the 6th spot, and you don't got to worry about this. You're in, right? So no crying from the Mavericks. You mentioned the Grizzlies. Our boys back, coach. Jaren Jackson Jr. stepped on the floor 2 nights ago. I was just so happy to see him back. I know he worked really, really hard to get back, and I know that he was struggling not from a work standpoint, but from the performance team and the medical people are like, look, we want you to be here before you get back. And these guys, coach, players, they want to play. And it's this constant battle of like, you can't get out there until you are ready, because we don't want to repeat or anything going forward. And if you followed his Instagram stories throughout this whole injury, you remember in Return of the Jedi when it starts, right? Han Solo's frozen in the carbonite. And as it starts to melt, he starts slowly coming up. So Jaren every day would have a new picture where he's slowly getting
that's so funny.
out of the carbon.
I love that. I love that. I want to talk about the playing game a little bit more. So Jarod, I happen to agree with Luka from this standpoint. What you said is right, and the rules are the rules. But we could have a situation in the NBA, not this year, but we could have a situation where the 7th seeded team has 55 wins and the 8th seeded team has 31. Like, it's not even close. But in the very last game of the regular season, 3 guys get hurt for the 7th seeded team, and now they could lose 1 game and drop. So what I think they should do is what they did going into the bubble a year ago. You had to be within a certain number for the trigger.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care about the 8th seed. To me, if you're 8, 9, 10, I don't care if you're 8 games apart. I don't care about that. But I do like a separation of 7 to 8. I think eventually they'll get to that, where you can play your way in to not have to have a playing game, which is really what we want also, is we want them to try to win more games. Mm-hmm. Don't just tank, right? So, but I didn't see Jaren Jackson play. How did he look?
He looked good. I mean, obviously, he's rusty, right? You can't simulate NBA basketball no matter what you do, like in practice or whatever. You have to play. Defensively, though, he was a maniac. He had 4 blocks.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, he was jumping all over the place like a puppy dog, as you'd often say.
Yeah.
The foul rate was high, as it usually is for him, and that's something he knows he's got to work on. But it's going to take them some time. But honestly, for Memphis, what I want, coach, is and they didn't start him. They brought him off the bench. He played 18, 19 minutes or so. They're going to ramp him up. They're not going to throw him out there and let him play 40 minutes right away. I really want Memphis to get past the play-in and get into the playoffs. I don't care if they get swept and demolished by whomever the top seed. Yeah. They need those reps on that stage to start building that chemistry and cohesion that Murray and Jokic have, that all these other teams that are at the top that they've had for years. They got to start building that so they're ready.
You're right.
As they start maturing, okay, we know what to do now to take these guys down.
I love that. Utah, people are trashing you, not trashing. They fairly question Utah because they've never done it before. So why would they do it now? Yeah, I get the argument, but we've had plenty of champions that didn't do it before and they went for sure. Everyone's got a first something. But Gobert and Mitchell have had plenty of disappointment in the playoffs, right? They know, and that builds calluses sometimes. So I like your point. Ja is just incredible. I'm a huge Jaren Jackson Jr. fan. Let them get their asses kicked in the playoffs and come back better next year. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. I have another thing in here on.
By the way, I think the Pelicans. I don't think they're going to be any. They're done. I don't think they're going to get.
So?
Yeah. The way they close out games lately, I know as a coach, this has to drive you nuts. I'm like, what are you guys even doing? Like, it looks like they have no clue how to play basketball late in games. I'm like, I don't know. You guys.
Fan really is. Yeah, he's been talking a lot about that too. It's been ugly. So I was looking at the last 2 months who have been. I didn't know the answer. I didn't know what I would find, except I thought number 1 would be who it was because they talk about it a lot. But I looked up the top 3-point shooters since February 22nd. So the last 2 months, right? Of anyone that's taken at least 4 threes a game. So these are rotation players who are shooting a lot. It's not just one game they shoot 4 threes. Number 1 since that is Joe Ingles, who's some 50%, whatever. Number 2, so Ingles from the Jazz. Reggie Jackson's number 2 from the Clippers. That's astounding. He could never have shooter before. The kid, DeAnthony Melton from Memphis, number 3, very impressive. George Niang, a great shooter, number 4 for the Jazz. So now the Jazz have 2 of the top 4 shooters. Hello. That's why they're so good. Michael Porter Jr., number 5. How about that? And then this is the other thing that I like. Marcus Morris Sr., number 6. The Jazz have 2 of the top 4. The Clippers have 2 of the top 6.
Yeah, man.
That's when 2 guys are shooting nearly 50% from 3 at high volume. We know why they're so good. The Clippers are up to number 9 in defense too now.
Oh yeah,
in the league. That's for the season. That's important.
Clippers are 42% as a team from 3, number 1 in the NBA.
Number 1, yeah.
Listen, that's why I'm liking them, man. You can hit threes, and we know they can guard. We know that. this is something nice. Again, clip's going to clip and all that stuff that eventually comes out that we always talk about come postseason. But I think because everybody's over them and like, whatever, we're just waiting on LeBron and AD to come back. All right. Everybody just forget about the Clippers. They might finally, as a franchise, find their way into a conference finals. By the way, amazing. Clippers in their franchise history, never been to a conference finals. I mean, not amazing if you know anything about Donald Sterling and how terrible he is as an owner. That's not too surprising.
Do you think that's going to change this year, don't you?
I think so. I do. I
do too.
And especially if the load is not on Kawhi and PG. And I think that, a lot of it is, Kawhi, the knee's a little bit sore. If it was the playoffs, I'm sure he's playing. I think they're just like, okay, this is our management plan. We know. Same with Paul. We're not going to tax you, especially in this condensed season. 72 games in 150-something days, something like that. It's essentially every other night you're playing, right? Which, as we know, is just atrocious and not conducive to great basketball if you continue that. So I'm excited for what this Clippers team is going to do.
Before I want to get to your control tweet, but before we do, I think Boston's a team that's always intrigued me not always, the last couple of months. Like, this is a team that's got what I call a lot of elasticity. They're not doing great. They've not had a great year, but we can picture them stretching out their ability to play. And again, they've made 2 of the last 3 conference finals, right? And Tatum and Brown's having a career year. Tatum is really starting to come. Kemba, when he's healthy, does very good. He's been up and down. He played well the other day, the big win the other day. But in looking at how Boston's done recently, you can't help but see what the Knicks are doing. Mm-hmm. So being a New Yorker, let me hear you. We talk about Brooklyn with you a lot. Let's talk Knicks a little bit.
Randy, get ready. This is going to be the time where I'm lavishing praise on the Knicks. Look, I'm working on something where I said playoff fever is gripping Gotham, right? New York being Gotham City. It has very little to do with the team in Brooklyn. It has everything to do, who, by the way, is a contender. It has everything to do with the Knicks. And it's just, Knicks fans are so happy. And this team is playing outstanding. They are number 4 in adjusted defensive rating. 4! They're so good. And Tibbs has built that culture of accountability there. You see it. RJ Barrett is a completely different player. Very obvious. You could see it. Shooting with confidence, all that. Julius Randle's going to make an All-NBA team this year, which a big payday's coming, which I want to tease something. Something's coming next week around that. They got some decisions to make because, that's interesting. Everything has changed. The culture around the franchise has changed. They compete hard. Emmanuel Quickley is excellent. They did draft Obi Toppin 8, and because he's behind Randle, he's just not getting time because, Tibbs likes to play guys who are going to help him win. And rookies at this stage are going to screw up. And Tibbs does not have the spirit for that at this moment right now. But to imagine the Knicks being, their Vegas preseason prediction was 22.5 wins. They might double it, which is what? Nobody thought that was coming. It's awesome for Knicks fans. They're so happy right now. And I really think that this is the start of something. And, everybody's sort of like, when Leon Rose and William Wesley came in, it was a lot of like, oh, what are they doing? Who knows? It might have been the genius thing because William Wesley for a gazillion years has been, and I don't want to say shadowy. That's a term that people often uses with a negative connotation. But he is a guy that is often behind the scenes, but is connected to every major and important player in the history of the NBA. And he has clearly been a Dolan whisperer, right? Because that's the big thing. If you can get Dolan to just not do stuff, you'll be fine. And he has been keeping his hands away and letting these guys do it. And they're seeing the success. And I think that something big is coming for this team over the next few years. And they're going to be, rightfully, getting themselves back together as like a team that's to be taken seriously. And I know Knicks fans are happy about that.
Do you think they'll keep Randle?
Well, again, I don't want to blow what I'm doing for next week, but I think because if he makes All-NBA, right, and he's in the second year of a 3-year, $62 million deal. If he makes All-NBA, that means he's max extension eligible, right? And that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 years, 160. The question you have to ask yourself is, at 28 years old, does that make sense for someone who is good, but is he a franchise-altering talent? I think we'd agree probably not, right? Like, if you're going to win a championship, I don't know that Julius Randle can be one of your max guys, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think so.
That's a fair question. Is he going to make it as a power forward, not as a center? He's not making it as a center.
No, because you got Jokic and Embiid already. It's 1-2 spots right there.
And Gobert.
Right. So you're out.
And Gobert. Done. Yeah.
Forward because Davis, LeBron, Durant have been out all season, basically. Sure. Yeah. So we got open spots.
I think he is going to make it. One of the things when I watch old movies, I always think to myself, well, if I was an actor in that movie, not old movie, any movie, they must love sitting on their couch at home and flipping around and seeing a movie they were in, because they've already seen the movie probably before. But they'll remember, I remember shooting that scene. Or maybe later in the day, my daughter had a ballet recital. It's an unfair advantage of a scrapbook of their lives. I've always been jealous of that. We don't have that unless you walk around all day with a camera, which we don't. I mean, young people do, people my age don't, with video. But the benefit of being in the media for as long as I've been in writing is I was watching Julius Randle the other day and someone was talking about what you said. And in my mind, I'm like, I think I loved him when he was a rookie. I have not Googled it yet. I'm going to. No one has to do it. I'll find out if I'm right. But I've always loved Julius Randle. I didn't understand why others didn't love him. He is a freight train with skill. Like, he's a big dude with skill and feel. And I always felt like he was a relentless competitor.
Oh, his motor is so high.
That's what I thought always. Yeah.
Interior scorer. He's shooting highest percentage of his career, 41% from three. Get this, coach. In the history of the NBA, only one person has averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 or more assists while shooting 40% from three.
Yeah.
Larry Bird.
Yeah.
You know who's going to join him this year? Jokic and Julius Randle.
Amazing. And he's guarding. He's not an elite defender. He's a good defender. He's a plus defender. Yes. The Knicks have built, to your point about paying him, I think it's a great point. They have built themselves a nice foundational core that allows them to always be competitive. They're going to beat the team they're supposed to beat more often than not because they're going to guard and play smart, not turn it over as much as most teams do, whatever. But can they bubble up? That takes high-level talent.
Yes.
Right? The Jazz are doing it this year collectively, but also Donovan Mitchell is an unbelievable scorer in a career year. Mike Conley's number 3 pick having a career year. Rudy Gobert is the best defensive player on the planet. Mm-hmm. Like, the Knicks don't have any of those guys. Right. You're right. I love Julius Randle, but I don't know. In fact, I would argue he probably isn't good enough.
Right.
When in the postseason, when everyone knows what you're doing, just that extra little bit. We'll see. I mean, everything's possible. We'll have to see.
It's also timing wise. And I see Brad dropped the question. Do I think Randle will get all NBA over Zion? Honestly, it depends on what our colleagues in the media do, Brad, right? Based on number of games, right? I think Durant's probably out of any All-NBA questions because he hasn't played enough games. He's easy All-NBA, but just not enough games. LeBron, maybe not. I mean, he's not going to play till I don't know when. So
I don't think so.
I think he might be out too. So we got 2 spots. I think Zion will make an All-NBA team. I think he will because he's played all season, and Randall's right up there with those guys. I think Kawhi and Paul George have played enough, so they'll be on an All-NBA team. But the timeline, Coach, if you extend, if he makes All-NBA and you make a contract extension, he'll start that at age 28.
Yeah.
RJ Barrett's 20, Quigley's 21, Obi Toppin's 23. Those timelines don't quite match up unless.
But do you pay him to trade him?
Oh.
That way you keep the quote unquote asset, right?
Stay tuned. Something coming.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. No, yeah, you're right. All right. You want to get to this control thing. It's good.
Yes. Judy, go ahead and play that Raja Bell story. It's so good.
Raja and Boris Diaw, yeah.
Boris, real quick. Like, tell any disparaging stories about Raja because he loves to do that shit to you. So go ahead, just do that. If you want to throw that these stories, go ahead as he's doing.
But it's it's going. So Raja, getting into it a little bit with the coach.
He's shooting hook shots. He's just out of it. He's not even locked in.
Oh yeah, he's trying some stuff that he never tried before. But anyway, long story short, he's telling me, it's like, so a month before maybe the trade and stuff like that, I was like, so I don't know, I think they're looking to trade me and stuff like that. I was like, oh no, come on, man, that's bullshit. We're gonna get through this and stuff like that, and we keep going. And me, I got also a little bit of fallout with the coach, as far as like what he's asking.
You got some fucking energy in you too. You got some fucking energy in you too, Boris?
No, it was something happening. I'm sometimes I'm a hard head, and so
Tell
I
it.
remember.
Tell
the story. Tell the story.
Of
Boris.
which one? The story of the three of shooting threes.
There was a story in Minnesota. Do you remember that story?
Is that the one I didn't want to shoot threes, or what?
Yeah, it could be the same story. It was the one where you would get all the way to the basket and then
like
go ahead, you tell it. Tell
the story, Boris.
So I don't know. It was like the game before, whatever. And so I don't know. We're in the fourth quarter, maybe 6 minutes to go, whatever. And so I get the ball wide open. I take a three and I miss. And then I don't know. The coach goes off on me. It's like, yeah, don't shoot that kind of shot and stuff like. And then so we go and we talk about it after the game and stuff like that and practice. And it was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm wide open. Like, how do you want me? It's not a bad shot. Like, I'm wide open. If they say, yeah, that's a bad shot, there is like a time and place and stuff like that. And so for me now in my mind, it's like, okay, if you're going to telling me that's a bad shot, then I don't know what's a good shot and what's a bad shot. And so I cannot make the decision anymore because you're taking that away from me. Because for me, if I'm a grown man supposed to be able to know or make actually the decision, what's a good shot, what's a bad shot. So if you're going to telling me that, now I don't know what's a good shot, I don't know what's a bad shot anymore, so I'm not going to take a shot.
Did you feel like your intelligence was insulted, Boris?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the next game, I didn't take one shot, and I was like wide open for layups and stuff like that. And so, I was a little bit of an asshole.
It was the most passive-aggressive attempt. It was phenomenal.
What would he do?
Someone who's wired like that himself, it was a phenomenal thing to witness, like way more balls than I did.
It's hilarious, man. Like, and there's a thing, right? Coaches and a lot of NBA coaches have this control thing where it's like, no, you got to do X, Y, and Z. And Boris is like, yeah, but dude, I'm wide open. I know that's a good shot. It doesn't matter that I missed. A wide open three is a good shot for me to take. Terry Porter obviously felt otherwise. And so Boris had to prove a point. All right, since I don't know what a good shot is, lay up. Nope, not shooting that. I'm going to pass it out. Like,
we've seen players do that sometimes too, but normally not for that reason. He was a great player.
Yeah.
Boris was a great player. I remember Udonis Haslem played his rookie season in France coming out of college. And I trained him that summer, and he told me, I want to say Michael Petrus and Boris Dio were both in the draft the same year. And Petrus was a really athletic. Boris was slow. He wasn't fat, but he was slow. He got heavy later. And I think Petrus was the higher rated player. And Udonis, like, not even close. Like, Boris Dio is a much better player. He's he didn't go in details. He just said he's a much better player. He was right. He was right. And Raja is from Florida. He's from Miami. Hey, Raja helped me at a 5-star basketball camp as like a high school senior. Like no one was recruiting him. He went to FIU, lower level, mid-major kind of school, and just hard-headed, tough. Hard-headed in a good way. Really tough defensively, very skilled. Miami makes great players. It's one of the toughest conferences in the country. But yeah, those guys are astute dudes. What show was that? Do they have their own show?
Murdoch and Raja Bell's podcast that they have. Yeah. The real ones. Yeah, it's so good. It was so good.
Yeah, I need to start. There's so many things to listen to. I need to start having that. Is Raja good on the show?
Yeah, because I love it because these guys have actual stories from the NBA. It's like, all right, let me tell you what actually went down in this scenario. Because again, most times if you're watching from the outside or you don't cover it, you don't know. No. You just see, he was being, and it's like, nope, there's actually more to this story, right? And I often say this, Coach, the incentives are never always aligned, right? What a player in a contract year wants versus what a coach wants versus what a GM wants versus what, right? Those things don't often line themselves up.
Oh, right.
Meeting interest, and this is how you have disaster often.
That's why culture matters so much.
Yes.
If you start, culture allows, and for sports, it allows you to think about we more than me easily, or more easily anyway, right? Yeah, that's the goal. All right, Legal. We're going to take care of you today.
That's it, Legal. Don't worry. You're not going to kick us out. Everybody have a good weekend. Stay safe out there, and we will see you on Monday with Tom Habestraw. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Judy.